Hi, I'm Mike from ATB Guitars, and this is Q&A with Mike. This is number 17. So to start off, here's a question from Steffield from Instagram feed. He asks, how can I be sure that an old Gibson is an original and not a copy, in brackets if you're not a collector? Well, Steffield, that's a good question, and the simple answer to that is buy from a reputable source. Buy from a dealer who has years of experience of dealing with this sort of thing, who knows what a copy is, what a fake, who knows what to look out for, and doing that you avoid the many pitfalls you can come across if you don't know what you're doing and you buy from unknown or even untrusted sources. That would be my number one recommendation, which some people would probably say, well, yes, you would say that, wouldn't you? Well, yes, I agree, yeah. However, if you don't want to follow my advice and you want to do this all by yourself, there's a number of pointers you can look for. First of all, when you're buying, particularly an old Gibson, you use all your senses when you're buying it. You feel it, you obviously play it, you smell it, because one of the key giveaways and one of the things which replica builders cannot replicate at the moment is the smell of an old Gibson. And if you don't know what that is, then go along to a big guitar show which features vintage guitars and just enter the room and you'll smell what I'm talking about. If not, then go to a dealer who has lots of these, like ourselves, and we can let you smell or sniff some of our guitars. I know that seems a bit odd, but that's one of the real things which you can't replicate at the moment. The other thing is, when I'm saying use your senses, you need to look at it very closely. You need to look at the way the finish has aged over the years, because there's certain telltales as to whether it's been artificially aged or naturally aged. You need to look for a certain way it's checked. Maybe I can do a video about this, explaining this in a bit more detail. And you do need to do a bit of research as well. It's very easy to replace parts which can be very valuable on guitars. So you have to know what parts belong with which guitars from which years, and you have to decide whether guitar has these parts and whether it's worth the prices being paid. It really is a bit of a minefield. I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you're sure about what you're doing, or you take someone along who knows a bit about vintage guitars, or who knows a lot about vintage guitars, in fact, or you just buy from a good, reputable dealer, which there are quite a lot around all over the world. And if you don't want to buy from us, then that's fine. I can recommend you trusted dealers in your part of the world to go to. Also, one final thing is, I'm quite open to having a look at other people's guitars, anonymously if required. Just send me the pictures and I'll let you know what I think, whether it's real or not. And hopefully this way I'll avoid some expensive mistakes for you. Okay. Here's a question from T. Lamming 2020, who again asks via Instagram, are late 80s Gibsons becoming more collectible? And is the line of vintage shifting towards that era? Well, we don't actually sell a lot of late 80s Gibsons. We do sell 80s Gibsons, but we generally stick to the early 80s Gibsons, i.e. the Carina series, the Heritage series, which was made in the early 80s, 81, 82, 83. Or we would sometimes sell the Heritage Elite series of Les Pauls, which were again made in the 80s. And they were all these guitars, well, most of these guitars had Shaw pickups, which are really nice. Now, I can't think of many late 80s guitars we have at the moment. We might have a couple of Les Paul Customs off the top of my head, but we're not finding they're particularly shifting pretty quickly. Maybe there's some late 80s guitars which are, but we don't have them here, so I can't say that the market is leaning towards late 80s from our perspective. Maybe there's some models which we don't have which are yielding good results, but unfortunately ones we have aren't. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm probably not qualified to answer your question, I'm afraid, but so far as the earlier 80s go, then yes, they are starting to become more valuable, and we are starting to receive great interest in these. So maybe the later 80s ones will follow through. Maybe you could also put in the comments which specific late 80s Gibsons you're particularly referring to, and I can have a look at that at a later stage for you. Okay, here's a question again from Instagram from Subsonic MP, who asks, why do prices keep going up each month? Last year ES295s were 5k, now they're 15k. Yeah, that's a good question. Taking the example of 295s as the specific example, I can say that, yeah, they have gone up in the last year. There's no doubt about that. And also the supply of them seems to have gone down in the last year. We've had renewed interest from people wanting them, and we've struggled to find a good supply of them. We've got two at the moment, one of which is very close to being sold. The other one is one of Bernie's guitars, which we're selling on behalf of his family. But I think for a number of years they've been underrated, and whoever is responsible for pushing up the prices of these, and it's usually an artist behind the scenes who's playing these, which are helping push the prices up, then they're doing a pretty good job in my opinion, because they have been undervalued for a number of years. And I think 10k is the right price for these guitars when you consider some ES175s go for that much with PAFs. So I don't think 10k is too unreasonable, and I think also they'll actually go up from there. But why do guitars rise each month? It's down to a lot of factors, really. It's mainly a question of desirability, which can be a number of factors involved in the desirability of a certain guitar. I touched on before that the artist's connection is one thing. There's also the rarity of them. There's also the lack of supply for them as well, which was particularly relevant during the COVID years. But I think right at the moment, right now, as we're recording this, which is, what month are we in?
September.
Thank you, September 2023. Lots of things go up each month. It's not just guitars, remember. It's the price of oil, the price of commodities, and inflation obviously goes up quite a lot each month. Well, it certainly is here in the UK and many parts of the world. So it's a natural progression, so to speak, of commodities like guitars and other things. And it's something which in many ways is beyond our control. But anyway, I hope that helps answer some of your points raised in that question. Okay, and finally, here's a question again from Instagram from Noisy Josh. Hi, Josh. He says, what's the most interesting thing you found in a guitar case? Well, that's an easy one to answer. I think the most interesting thing we found in a guitar case is a 1960 Gibson Les Paul Burst, which, if you look through our other videos, you'll see 3 videos about it when this teacher from Prestbury walked in with this amazing undiscovered burst, which we have done a series of videos on. That's probably the most interesting thing we found inside a guitar case, which was certainly unexpected to the owner of a guitar case. Aside from that, we found interesting things. I mean, back in the early days, I was when I was dealing guitars on eBay. I used to buy a lot off eBay. One time I went to someone's house. I bought an SG. It was a 62 SG from memory. It had been modified quite a bit, and there's been switches added. There's different pickups. So it was really cheap, really cheap. When I got the guitar home, I didn't look at it closely when I picked it up, but when I got the guitar home, one of the first things you always do is look in the case pocket. I mean, still to this day I do this when I'm at guitar shows. I always, when I'm about to buy something, I look in the case pocket, because I'm never quite sure what I'm going to find. But in this instance, when I looked in the case pocket, there were a pair of PAFs wrapped up, working perfectly, unmolested, with their covers still on. Obviously, the guy many years ago had taken out the original PAFs, put some Seymour Duncans in, or no, I think it was DiMarzio's actually, and then neatly wrapped up the PAFs and put them in the case pocket. So that was a good find, because the PAFs by themselves were worth more than what I paid for the guitar. So that was pretty cool for me anyway. Other things we found, in one ES5 I bought in the States, there was a rattlesnake's tail in the pocket, which I was told is some kind of Indian good luck charm or something like that. Maybe somebody can comment below and tell me if that's the case, but that's what I was told. It was quite a surprise to find it when I got it back, but yeah, there was a rattlesnake's tail. Other things we found recently, in a Vox amplifier, there was a domino, which was a double white domino, double blank, which I think in the domino world means it's quite a special tile. So one of those was in the back of a very old Vox, 1960 AC4, I think it was, which I believe we still have on the website. But yeah, it's amazing what you can find in guitar cases, and it's really nice to be surprised by that as well. So thanks, Josh, for that great question, and thanks very much for watching this. Any other questions you have, please comment below. Send us a like if you like, and subscribe if you like as well. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Q&A.